All right, guys, so it's been a long time since I've talked about one of my favorite topics on this channel, which is the GOP Civil War. Now, if you guys don't know what the GOP Civil War is, it is basically the obvious conflict going on between Trump, people who support Trump, people that Trump is backing, and the establishment Republicans, because it is very clear that there is conflict between the two sides, and they're basically fighting over control of the direction of the Republican Party. Now, here's kind of how the groundwork of the GOP Civil War works. Right now, Trump is the king of the Republican Party in the sense that he has the people behind him, okay? And he has overwhelming support over any other establishment politician, including people like Ron DeSantis, who is very popular within the Republican Party. Trump is still king. However, what Trump is missing is the ability to be kingmaker. Okay, now kingmaker basically means that you control the money and you control who gets elected, right? Now, the current kingmaker of the Republican Party is Mitch McConnell, okay, who's made it very clear that he does not like Trump, okay, and that he's going to do whatever he can to stop Trump from having influence in the party and probably stop him from getting reelected in 2024. In fact, there was actually a report that came out that Mitch McConnell actually supported the Democrats in their impeachment efforts of Trump, basically saying that he hopes that they take care of the SOB for us. And what he means by for us is he means the rest of the establishment Republicans who obviously don't like Trump either, and we're gonna get into that. That's basically what this story is about, as one establishment Republican has been exposed as a snake. But my initial point that I want you guys to understand about the GOP Civil War is that Trump is trying to become kingmaker, okay? He's trying to control the money and control who gets elected, and that is going to be a showdown to watch in 2022 and in 2024 if Trump decides to run for president, and you know, all the other people that are going to run under him in 2024 as well. So back to the snake, because a snake has been exposed, and you guys shouldn't be surprised by this, because a lot of people have speculated that this particular individual is a snake. And the great part about this, guys, is that the Democrats and mainstream liberal media has done our job for us, right? As Rachel Maddow of MSNBC has exposed the Republican leader of the House, Kevin McCarthy. And it is so glorious because the Democrats and the mainstream liberal media, they don't even realize that conservatives and the base of the Republican Party, they don't want Kevin McCarthy to be the leader of the House for the Republicans, okay, and potentially be Speaker of the House in 2022 if/when the Republicans take it back over, right? We don't even want them. So it's a good thing that you've exposed the guy, right? They don't even realize they're doing our job for us, okay? So that being said, Kevin McCarthy got exposed, basically lying about a report that accused him of wanting to call Trump after January 6th to recommend that he resign, okay, as Trump was basically facing impeachment. Now, Kevin McCarthy came out and denied that and said that it was a lie. Again, however, there's audio tapes of him saying that exact thing in discussions with Liz Cheney, who is obviously a anti/never Trumper. But Kevin McCarthy also said some things I think are even worse than that, that is flying under the radar, that I'm going to talk about, that actually really does, in my opinion, disqualify him from being Speaker of the House for the Republicans if/when the Republicans win in 2022. So with that being said, let's go ahead and roll the tape of Rachel Maddow exposing Kevin McCarthy for us. Take a look.
In a statement to the New York Times earlier today, a spokesman for Kevin McCarthy issued a flat denial that McCarthy ever said he would push Trump to resign. That spokesman said, quote, "McCarthy never said he'd call Trump to say he should resign." McCarthy never said he'd call Trump to say he should resign. To further clarify, you should also know that NBC News reached out to the congressman's office following that statement, specifically asking again and drilling down on the question of whether or not Mr. McCarthy said he would push President Trump to resign. His spokesman responded saying, quote, "No, he did not." Leader McCarthy also issued a statement himself today saying, in part, quote, "The New York Times reporting on me is totally false and wrong." The problem with these denials from Mr. McCarthy and his office is that we have now obtained audio. Here it is.
Liz, you on the phone?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Kevin. I guess first a question. When we were talking about the 25th Amendment resolution,
Yeah.
and you asked if what happens if it gets there after he's gone, is there any chance, are you hearing that he might resign? Is there any reason to think that might happen?
I've had some few discussions. My gut tells me no. I'm seriously thinking of having that conversation with him tonight. I haven't talked to him in a couple days. From what I know of him, I mean, you guys all know him too. Do you think he'd ever back away? But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to call him. This is what I think. No, it'll pass the House. I think there's a chance it'll pass the Senate even when he's gone. And I think there's a lot of different ramifications for that. Now, I haven't had a discussion with the Dems that if he did resign, would it not happen? Now, this is one personal fear I have. I do not want to get into any conversations about Pence pardoning, anything like that. I mean, the only discussion I would have with him is that I think this will pass, and it would be my recommendation you should resign. I mean, that would be my take, but I don't think he would take it, but I don't know.
The discussion I would have with him is that I think this will pass, meaning the impeachment resolution will pass, and it would be my recommendation you should resign.
Yeah, so the Democrats think that this is a W for them, and I'm just like, not really. It's actually something that we wanted, right? People on the right was like, yeah, you know what? We don't really trust this guy. We think this guy's a snake, and then we have evidence that he is a snake, okay? So with that being said, how do we interpret this? How do we break this down? So basically in that phone call, Kevin McCarthy was telling Liz Cheney that, hey, you know what? I think that Trump is going to get impeached. It's going to pass. The Democrats are going to move forward with it. I'm going to recommend that he resign. Or I want to call him to recommend that he resign. I don't know if he will, but I'm going to do that. Now, this is important because literally 2 or 3 weeks later, this guy came out and basically punished Liz Cheney for saying the exact same thing, right? When she came out and basically said, Trump should resign, he should be impeached, blah, 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 whatever. She lost her leadership position in the GOP for that. And all of a sudden, Kevin McCarthy became the most pro-Trump guy ever, right? Which shows you how these politicians will lie in public and then go behind closed doors and say something else, right? Something totally different, okay? I mean, he basically lied, okay? He's basically faking. He's playing an act. He's playing politics. But, there's multiple ways to interpret this, okay? The most benign way of interpreting it is that he could have said, hey, I'm going to recommend, Trump resign because I don't want him to get impeached, because throughout the impeachment process, if he's found guilty in the Senate trial, then they could choose to strip him of his ability to run for president again. So maybe Kevin McCarthy was thinking about this from the perspective of, well, it's better if you just go ahead and resign because you're going to leave office anyways. That way you don't have to go through the whole impeachment thing and, you're good. Okay, you can run again in 2024, whatever. Right? But maybe not. Okay. Maybe it was more like, hey, you know what? I think that you should step down. I'm blaming you for what happened on January 6th. And I'm going along with the Democrats. Right? I think that is probably the worst way to interpret it for Kevin McCarthy. Okay. So I'm not really sure exactly what his meaning is and what interpretation is. All I know is that what he said in that audio does not align with the things he said publicly weeks later. Okay. So again, this is just an example of, again, politicians telling the public one thing, but then behind closed doors actually believing something else. So that being said, Trump allegedly has made up with McCarthy. McCarthy actually called Trump last night, apparently, and Trump is okay with it. And part of the reason why Trump was okay with it is because allegedly Trump was just glad that McCarthy actually didn't follow through with it, that he didn't actually really call him to make that recommendation because he didn't actually really do it. Trump is like, okay, we cool, because at the end of the day, you are a yes man, right? You're a foot soldier. You'll do anything I tell you to do, right? As long as you can keep power. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure exactly what this accomplishes for the Democrats, but I know one thing for conservatives and people in the base, it does expose Kevin McCarthy as somebody that we have to get rid of. I don't care if Trump is cool with him or not, okay? Trump being cool with him doesn't have anything to do with me being cool with him, because Allegedly, Kevin McCarthy said something that I find to be unforgivable. Apparently, he privately wished Twitter and Facebook would ban more Republicans after the January 6th incident. So let's actually read about this, because this is alleged in this book as well too. And I have no reason not to believe it, considering how there's audio proving that he said the other things that he said. So he probably said this as well too. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy probably told Republican lawmakers that he wanted social media companies to ban some of their more outspoken colleagues after the insurrection, according to a forthcoming book by 2 New York Times reporters. Quote, "We can't put up with that," McCarthy said on January 10th, 2021, according to, quote, "This will not pass. Trump, Biden, and the battle for America's future," adding, "Can't they take their Twitter accounts away too?" Wow. Wow, this is unforgivable. McCarthy's comments were first reported by the Times on Thursday by Alexander Burns and Jonathan Martin, the authors of the book to be released May 3rd. Mark Maddow, a spokesperson for McCarthy, disputed that McCarthy ever called for such action. I don't know why I would believe any spokesperson for McCarthy, because, again, they got caught lying before about the last thing they said. McCarthy never said that particular members should be removed from Twitter. Bedard told the Times, "If true, McCarthy's private desires flies in the face of his public push to rein in large tech companies in the wake of the platform's booting then President Donald Trump following the Capitol riot." Twitter said at the time that it booted Trump due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Quote, "Facebook is more interested in acting like a Democrat super PAC than a platform for free speech and open debate," McCarthy wrote on Twitter last May. "If they can ban President Trump, all conservative voices could be next." According to This Will Not Pass, McCarthy and now Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell were privately much more critical of Trump in the days after January 6th, before ultimately deciding not to publicly break with the leader of their party. McCarthy later issued a sweeping denial of his reported comments. All right, so yeah, I believe he said that. 100% I believe he said it. And this explains why the Republican Party has been so useless when it comes to big tech and censorship, because they actually agree with it. They're totally fine with big tech, Facebook, Twitter, censoring members of their own party. They're totally okay with it. And this is why I'm glad they've been exposed, because now we know who need to be voted out for sure, right? There's no questions anymore, because these guys are secretly pro-censorship. They're cheering on Facebook and Twitter as their constituents, as conservatives, are being censored on Facebook and Twitter. As our free speech is being taken away online, they're totally fine with it, okay? They're cheering it on, okay? And to me, this being exposed is all the more reason why Kevin McCarthy has to go. I don't care what Trump says, okay? I don't care if Trump likes him. I don't care about any of that. He has to go. He has to be replaced, okay? If you are pro-censorship in the Republican Party, in my opinion, you are a rhino, okay? I'm going to keep it 100. If you are pro-censorship, that automatically disqualifies you, especially to be somebody that is Speaker of the House. Again, this explains why these guys have been so useless, why conservatives' best hope for free speech online is Elon Musk, a tech billionaire who's not even Republican. He's not even conservative. He's just a guy that is just for free speech. Again, he's more pro-free speech than the guys in Congress in Washington that claim to be pro-free speech and claim to be trying to uphold the Constitution. When in reality, behind closed doors, they're not actually trying to do that. They're actually trying to silence the people that put them in office in the first place. It's a damn shame. And again, in my opinion, this is the biggest story. Okay? This should be front page news. This should be what conservatives talk about. These future Speaker of the House, potentially, for the Republicans, wants to silence conservatives. I don't care what he said publicly. We know what he believes privately. We know what he says publicly is not credible. We can't have that. That's just unexcusable. That's unacceptable. And Republicans that stand behind this guy and vote for him to be Speaker of the House, knowing that he's pro-censorship, they should be punished as well too. Because we can't have a party that's pro-censorship. We just can't. Not in my opinion. I'm just saying. That's just me. That's just how I feel about it. So again, I think that this is way more important, this part of it, than what he said about Trump after January 6th, to be quite honest with you. This is what we should actually be talking about. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.